Hello and welcome to Ethereal. This is some of my favorite work on the idea of an invisible touch. Now, of course, it all stems from Banachek's incredible routines, psychokinetic touches. If you don't have that already, you should have a copy or a version of psychokinetic touches. It's a classic. It still stands strong today. It's such an incredible routine. I highly recommend, if you don't already have it, then just buy it, learn it, and perform it, because it's incredible. Banachek is one of my favorite mentalists in the world, and even just last year, I got to see him performing psychokinetic touches live on stage for a modern day audience, and he'd add just a few nice little changes in there, but the core routine was still the same, and it's still just absolutely incredible. Another of my favorite PK touch routines is Midas Touch by Peter Turner. Again, I highly recommend picking that up if you can get hold of it. It is such a great piece of not only mentalism, but also just the way the choreography and the scripting, it all flows together really nicely. And I think my favorite PK touch style routine is Energetic Touches by Jerome Finley. Jerome Finley has so much work on this kind of stuff, invisible touches, PK touches and things like that. It's always propless and it's always incredible. I don't think Jerome's material is publicly available anymore, but you can still contact Jerome through Facebook, and you'll still be able to purchase his work from him just through contacting him. And again, if you don't have any of Jerome's work, I highly recommend picking it up, especially his routine Energetic Touches. It's so good. This project is kind of a collection of some of my favorite techniques that I use. And there's a difference here. You will learn a routine that I call replicant, which is physical touches that they feel. And then everything else you're going to learn, it's a lot more esoteric, hence the name ethereal. It's very delicate, very light, and it's centered around the idea of energy. So your spectator is feeling energy, not touches, not like physical touches. And it's important to keep that in mind, because if someone came along and said, "Can you feel this energy?" What do you think that would feel like? It'd be, I don't know, maybe like a pressure, like a tingling, like something. It'd be different. Your physical senses would interpret it differently to how somebody else's might, because your physical senses are essentially receiving the data, which is then interpreted by your brain, and it could be interpreted by different people in different ways. However, it would be very subtle, very light, very delicate, because nothing physical is touching you. It's energetic. It goes beyond matter. It would feel very light and just unusual. There's something there. And that's kind of what all of this material is, except for replicant, which is physical touches that they feel. None of these methods rely on suggestibility, so they don't have to be suggestible. It's not suggestion. And it doesn't really rely on, I mean, I suppose it does to some extent rely on expectation, but there's expectation naturally built into this, but you're not solely relying on their expectations for them to feel this. These are mechanical methods where you're causing something to happen which they will feel. An important thing to keep in mind is everybody feels these techniques. You just have to get them to a state in which they are willing to be consciously aware of what they can feel, right? So you don't want just somebody there with their hand out expecting you to do everything. They also have to make some efforts in order to experience or feel this. And I think that's kind of nice, because if this was real, if you weren't using secret techniques and you were causing them to feel energy, surely they would have to be in some sort of receptive state in order to be aware of the energy that they're supposed to be able to feel. Another fantastic routine that is kind of similar in appearance, I'd say, maybe not so much in method, but that is D'Angelo's Touch. And again, if you don't have D'Angelo's Touch, just go and watch the trailer for that thing. It looks amazing. And that's what it looks like when you perform it as well. So I highly recommend picking that up too. All right. So let's jump into some routines. Here's kind of the order that I'll be sharing this in. First, you will learn replicant, which is the routine that you'll have seen on social media and maybe in the trailer, where I'm touching my hand, and Ben, you may recognize Ben from Mindhouse Radio if you listen to that. I had Ben there with me because I wanted to openly talk about the methods in front of somebody, and I trust him with the methods. I don't trust many other people, at least people close to me. I want to kind of keep it a secret. So first is replicant. This is where you're touching your hand and they can feel it and count the touches seemingly in real time. You'll see me demonstrate this on my own hand, but I think it looks better when you've got two people. So you've got two spectators. You touch one person's hand and then the other person can feel it. And in the demonstration you're about to see and in the explanation you're about to see, I go through all of that. Then you will learn the replicant reveal. Now it's important to know that when you see this demonstration, I did something off camera to get the best version of it on camera. And that is, I simply asked Ben to draw a picture. I asked him to draw a picture of something he could hold in the palm of his hand, and then I peeked the drawing using a peek technique that he wasn't expecting, hence his reaction. But I kind of did that as pre-show, right? So I'm peeking something first, and then what you're seeing is the reveal. And I talk through all of that as well, so you can do the same kind of pre-show in your live performances or on video. But I'll also explain and talk you through how to do this close-up as well when everybody is aware that a drawing is happening. I don't teach a peek, but it's the peek of a drawing. You can use any peek that you have. Whatever your favorite peek is, use that one. And then you'll learn palm chakra, which is a 3-phase invisible touch routine where there is never any physical contact. It is a mechanical method, so you are doing something that they will feel. Again, the most important thing is you just have to cause them to be aware of what they can feel. It happens in 3 phases, once above their hand, then again when their hand is out like this, and you take a step back and they feel it, and then again from across the room. So you can go right the way across the room, they close their eyes, you do this, and then after a moment they feel it. And you can have them sit back in the chair, fall back into somebody's arms, whatever you want, just to show everybody else that that is when the energy arrived and they felt it. Then you'll learn Kukulkan, which is a couple of techniques. You'll see why it has that name when you see the demonstration, but it's a couple of techniques that will allow you to demonstrate different types of energy, and they are experienced differently as well. So you can have your spectator close your eyes, you demonstrate the energy, have them close their eyes, and then say, okay, I'm going to do one of those, and I want you to just tell me which one you feel that it is. And the audience will see it, the spectators have their eyes closed, and they will name the exact technique that you were demonstrating. And then we'll come back here for some extra ideas and final thoughts. All right, so let's begin with replicant. Okay, so if you could just take a little step back, and this arm here, I want you to raise it up in front of you like you're trying to feel something that's out there. So like this. Excellent. Now I want you to imagine that there's an energy moving through the room, into your hand, up your arm, and through your whole body. And just close your eyes for me, and I want to bring your attention to your hand here. From this moment on, pay attention to any touches or taps you feel on this hand and the amount of times you feel it. So, keeping your eyes closed, just yes or no, did you feel me touch your hand a couple of times?
Yes.
Excellent. Now, it's a strange request, but these taps on your hand, I'd like you to slowly count them out loud for me.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Excellent. Now keep your eyes closed, but lower your hand and raise your other hand up just to give your arm a rest, and make a fist. So everything you're feeling right now and everything you're experiencing will make perfect sense in just a moment. But be absolutely honest, yes or no, a moment ago, did you feel me touch the back of your hand multiple times?
Yeah.
And can you point to where you felt it? Excellent. And you can put your hand down now and open your eyes. And that is replicant. Now normally at this point you'd have another spectator there or an audience, and they'd be able to clarify for the spectator that you were touching your own hand or their hand, and they were feeling it only in their minds, apparently.
Cool.
Okay, so this is the explanation for replicant. I've asked Benjamin Francis to join me. Ben, you will know his voice if you've listened to Mindhouse Radio. I host Mindhouse Radio with Ben, and I've asked him to be here today just to help me explain this, because I need another person there who's, it's okay if they know the method, but you know, somebody I can reposition like a mannequin, like a doll. All right. So this uses a combination of methods and ideas. It's something I created a while back. It was meant to be used on television, and then we used a different version of this. But I've been performing this for a while, and what I love most about this is the distance real time. So you're either touching your hand, you will have seen me performing this on Ben, touching my own hand, but in an ideal scenario, you'd be performing this on 2 spectators. So you're touching one person's hand, and the other person feels it. This uses, as I say, a combination of methods. There is an idea in here that it's as old as the hills, but I've seen Colin Cloud use this. and I believe he's published some work that relies on this idea as a method. And also Andrew Gerard. I saw Andrew Gerard doing some incredible work with this concept that I'm going to show you now. So I'd like to credit him for this as well, because I probably wouldn't have started using that if I didn't see Andrew Gerard do it with some amazing, amazing work. All right, so the basic idea is, in case you haven't guessed already, you are touching the hand that's not in the air, you're touching that hand a couple of times secretly, and then you're trying to get as much mileage out of that as you can, and then there's a very nice clean up at the end. So firstly, you would want 2 spectators for this, and you want to be sort of, so let's say I'm performing this on you, so I'd be doing the secret touches on Ben, and I'd have another spectator here. I'll be secretly touching his hand down here by his side, so as long as this is the hand that's furthest away from the audience. So it wouldn't work if I was like this, with my back to the audience, I'm touching this hand. Depending on the situation you're in, you might want to position them in different places, but for stage, or if you've got people in front of you, you want them perfectly sideways. And there's another thing you can do to hide what's going on here in a minute. If you've got people stood up and they're close to you, you can get away with a lot more. And I prefer to perform this when people are stood up and they're kind of crowded around a little bit close. That's my ideal scenario to be in to perform replicant. Now, I will walk you through how I did it with just one person first, what you've seen in the clips. And then there's a few extra little lines you can say to this person here just to get the most out of the effect and to make the most out of the misdirection. So essentially, you're going to be stepping into this person's personal space. Now, if you were to do that whilst looking at them, forgive me in advance, this feels really weird, right? How strange is it? I enjoyed it. But so did I, actually, but for them it might be weird. Yeah. So we're going to use an old Apollo Robbins technique. I think it's even older than that, but again, I learned this from Apollo Robbins. To get into somebody's personal space comfortably, you're going to show them something or point at something, and then you can step in as close as you want. So I can get as close as I want to Ben comfortably by just doing this. So if I say, Ben, just take a look at my hand here, and now it doesn't matter how close. And even if this is a stranger who you don't know, you can very easily step into the personal space by bringing the attention here and looking outwards, because you're going to be relying on that. So you position them how you want them to be. And in fact, if you can kind of stay at an angle just so they can see, it's like an exposed view we've got this from, but normally they'd be perfectly sideways. You're going to ask them to raise, so you're going to point to the hand that you want them to raise, and then you're going to step into the personal space and raise the hand up just to demonstrate what you want them to do with the same arm. So you're asking them to put their hand up, and you're saying to them, now I want you to imagine that there's an energy moving through the room and into your hand, and this is where this hand comes up, moving through the room, into your hand, this hand comes up your arm and through your body. And as you say through your body, it gives you a perfect excuse to aim this hand to this hand here, because you don't want to be looking down. So as you say, imagine it goes into your hand, up your arm and through your body, and now I can lean in as close as I want. I look away from him, I stop making eye contact, and I find his hand down here. I don't touch it, but I just want to get close as I can to his hand. And then I say, close your eye. You can keep your eyes open for this, but then I ask them to close their eyes, and now we're good. Once their eyes are closed, I can get as close as I need. To further block the view of what's going on down here, and you can put your hand down for a second, to further block the view of what's going on here, you're going to step into it like this. So you're putting your foot in front of theirs like this, right? So that's what I mean. You are all up in their personal space, but their eyes are closed at this point, so that they're not going to. It's not going to become awkward. And what this does is it allows me to find Ben's hand here without looking, and it also blocks the view of just anybody over there. Right? Ideally, you'd have your audience in front of you, but it just blocks the view a little bit more. And don't forget, you've got a spectator here as well, so you want to keep all of the attention up here. So their arm is out. Their eyes are closed, but keep your eyes open just so you can see what's happening. You've done this. You've found the hand. As you step in, their eyes will be closed. And now you want to keep the attention here. So as you say, I want to bring your attention to this hand. Everyone assumes you're talking about this hand, but as you say that, you want to find their hand. Now, you won't be able to see it, so just open your hand and find their hand. Right, there it is. And now I can move a few inches away and I know where Ben's hand is. If I was to try and do that delicately, I might touch the wrong part of his body, and you definitely don't want to do that. So just find their hand and then move a few inches away. So I'm moving in, I'm finding his hand, and just so I know where his hand is for the secret touches. So as I say, I want to bring your attention to your hand here. I find his hand, I move away, and then I start doing this. Like I'm going to touch his hand, but I don't. It keeps the focus here. And as you say, I want you to, from this moment on, pay attention to any touches, because you don't want them to count this as a touch. So you say, from this moment on, pay attention to any touches or taps you feel on this hand and the amount of times you feel it. And the moment you do that, because if you tap and talk, they can't focus on both. So you finish talking, you do 4 taps. So you can, So their eyes will be closed. I want to bring your attention and your awareness to your hand here. So I found his hand. From this moment on, pay attention to any touches or taps you feel on this hand and the amount of times you feel it. And then straight down here, I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 taps. From here, I gently move away. I get this hand out of the way as I move away, and I keep the focus here with this hand, like we're connecting. And I remind them to keep their eyes closed. And I say, okay, so keeping your eyes closed, and now at this point, if you've got another spectator, you'll be touching the back of their hand, but you can do it like this. I say, keeping your eyes closed, but be honest, yes or no, did you just feel me touch your hand a couple of times? Now everyone here sees 2, and they assume I mean couple as in 2. But this person assumes I just mean more than once. So I say, be honest, yes or no, did you just feel me touch your hand a couple of times? And they'll say yes, because of course they did. And now you continue with excellent. Now it's a strange request, but these taps on your hand, I'd like you to slowly count them out loud for me, if you could do that now. Now, I trust, there's a line that I don't always say. Sometimes I will. I didn't say it. I don't think I said it in the clips that you saw there, but it's important for me to share it with you in case you want to use it. You know they're going to count to 4 out loud. You want them to do it slowly, and you're going to be essentially touching your own hand or somebody else's hand 1 ahead of their count. So the line is, and I've gone through so many different lines to make this work. This is the line that works, at least for me and for the very few who I've taught this to. I say to them, it's a strange request, but these taps on your hand, I'd like you to slowly count them out loud for me, if you could do that now. And as I say now, I touch my own hand. And then as I say these taps, I touch my own, so I get in another touch that doesn't count. So fluidly, because it's kind of hard to explain, but it's like this. So, did you just feel me touch your hand a couple of times? Yes. Excellent. Now it's a strange request, but these taps on your hand, I'd like you to slowly, and you stress the word slowly, slowly count them out loud for me. And now you can stop here and just start touching, or you can add in the line, slowly count them out loud for me, if you could do that now. As you say, now touch your hand, just because you might get somebody who doesn't know they're supposed to start counting yet. So by saying, if you could do that now, it just tells them that that's what they need to be doing. It's a strange request, but these taps on your hand, I'd like you to slowly count them out loud for me, if you could do that now. And I touch and I wait for the 1. And as soon as they say 1, because some people interpret slowly as slowly.
1.
Yeah. There are some people, but that's quite nice. But there are some people that will go 1, 2, 3, and you don't want them to get ahead of you. So I do this, I wait for the 1. As soon as they've said it, I immediately do another tap, because this will give me a chance to judge how slow or fast they're going. I know they're going to count to 4, so I stop after 4 taps, and I pause for a moment. And I pause for a moment because I want the audience to see that you're not going to continue counting when I haven't done a tap. I know they're going to stop at 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I pause. And it's just nice for the audience to know that this isn't going to continue. Now, for the clean-up, super easy. You remind them to keep their eyes closed and say, keeping your eyes closed, just put your hand down now and raise your other hand up just to give your arm a rest. This works nicely for you because it lets you clean the routine up. But also, it works nicely for you because your arm has been out like that for quite a while and it's nice to have a rest. It looks like you're doing them a favour. But what you're really doing is cleaning this up. So they raise their other hand, and you can have them do anything you want here. I ask them to make a fist. I stand here, and now I just start touching my own hand, and I say, everything you're feeling and everything you're experiencing right now will make perfect sense in just a moment. Now, everyone else assumes that they can feel this, and it's the tapping that's going to make sense. But this person is having quite a weird experience with nothing actually going on. So that it kind of makes them think, oh, okay, all of this weird stuff will be explained in a moment, and then it is. So the hand is there. Everything you can feel and everything you're experiencing right now will make perfect sense in just a moment. But be absolutely honest, yes or no, a moment ago, and then I kind of emphasize this like so. Yes or no, a moment ago, did you feel me touch the back of your hand multiple times? They'll say yes, and then I'll say, can you point to where you felt it? And they'll point to the back of the hand where I was just touching on my hand. This looks its best when you've got two spectators. So here's how it would. In fact, I'll go through the whole piece. Keep your eyes open, even when I say close them. And I want you to imagine that there's another spectator here. And I'm going to throw in the extra line. Okay, so you'd be facing this way, and another spectator would be facing you here, and they'd be far enough apart so that their hands don't touch when they raise them up. But I say to this person here, in a moment, I'm going to gesture to you like this. And when I gesture to you like this, I want you to take your left hand and just raise it up in front of you like so. And I stand next to them and I demonstrate just so they can clearly understand which arm I'm talking about. So I say, in a moment, when I gesture to you like this, I want you to take your left hand and just raise it up in front of you like this. So now, when I point at them, they're going to put their arm up without me having to explain anything mid-routine. So they've got those instructions. That's the extra line. So I say to them, okay, I want you to take this hand and hold it out in front of you like you're trying to feel John's energy. I know it's like you're connecting two people. I want you to imagine that John's energy moves across the room and into your hand, up your arm through your whole body, and close your eyes for me, but keep them open. Up your arm through your whole body and close your eyes for me, and I want to bring your attention to your hand here. So now you can see that this is blocked from the audience, and by me stepping in front, I've blocked it from this person here. I want to keep the attention up here, but I'm still blocking their view. Because of the angle we're at, you might actually see this, but I think that's a good thing. Yeah. It's good if they see it. So I want to bring your attention to your hand here. And from this point on, pay attention to any touches or taps you feel on this hand and the amount of times you feel it. You stop talking, and then as you do the 4 taps, gesture to this person, right? So there's the larger action covering the smaller one. Gesture to this person and look at them. They will raise their hand up like so. And as this is all going on, you're doing secret taps in the corner. Right, so all of the attention, again, it stays here and it goes on to them. So now what you can do, their hands are like this, and you can instantly move away from here. And what I do is I like to step aside, I do this, I come up, and I pretend I'm transferring some sort of energy between their hands. And then I stay here, and now, so their arm will be up, theirs is up, so their hand is here. As I touch the back of their hand and say, okay, now Ben, keeping your eyes closed, be absolutely honest, yes or no, did you feel me touch the back of your hand a couple of times? They'll say yes. I say, great, now it's a strange request, but these taps on your hand, I'd like you to slowly count them out loud for me, if you could do that now.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And then I pause, and I say, excellent, now keeping your eyes closed, you can put your hand down now, and I gesture to this person to put their hand down, and bring your other hand up just to give your arm a bit of a rest, and I step back and this hand comes up. So now they've both swapped hands and they're mirroring each other. Touch their hand a couple of times, so everything you're feeling and everything you're experiencing right now will make perfect sense in just a moment, but be absolutely honest, yes or no, a moment ago, did you feel me touch the back of your hand multiple times? They'll say yes. And I say, can you point to where you felt it? They'll touch the back of the hand, which has apparently been up here the whole time. And at this point, you ask them to open their eyes and put their hands down. And now you can close this off however you want. You just need them to clarify to this person what actually happened or seemingly happened. You could even say to this person here, now, for you, it might have just felt like I was stood there next to you touching your hand. The truth is, I was stood here the whole time, and any touches or taps you felt me do on your hand was only in your mind. In fact, I was touching John's hand over here. And maybe you can verify that. And then you turn to them, they can clarify. However you want to close this off at the end is up to you. I will say something differently every time. Like sometimes I'll come away and say, if I was to ask you if you felt me touching the back of your hand, what would you say?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought you would. But believe it or not, that was only happening in your mind. And it fascinates me every time I do this. You see, I've been stood here the whole time, and you won't believe me because your eyes were closed, which is why all of these people here had their eyes open. Ladies and gentlemen, did I touch his hand? And then you get up, no. Yeah, or anything like that. The choice is yours. It's really, really flexible. It's just important to remember the moments of misdirection and to frame everything nicely. So, you know, if your audience is in front of you, get their hand, the secret touching hand, as far away from the audience as you can get. If you've got someone here, block their view. As I say, my favorite time to do this is when people are stood up and a bit close, and we've got a group of people, we're all stood around chatting, just because when they're all stood up, they're on the same level as you, and it's just easier to keep the attention up here. But that is it. That is Replicant. It's as easy and as smooth as that.
There we go.
So here's a variation of replicant. This is something that it's better if you do this on yourself. So you do this with one other person and yourself rather than having two spectators. And it's a great reveal. It's a great ending to a routine that you can do anywhere at any time. All right, so Ben, I have some instructions here for you. If you could take just a little step back. I have some instructions that I've written out on my phone. I want you to read these just while I talk to the audience for a moment. Make sure you fully understand them. So they say that we have three types of body: the physical body, the emotional body, and the energetic body. Now, there are many people that will tell you that these other bodies don't exist. However, there are many scientists, philosophers, and physicists that will tell you that they do exist. And that's what we're going to play with now. I'm going to try and establish a connection between Ben and myself. You've read the instructions?
Yep.
You fully understand them?
Yep.
Okay, I'll take this from you. All right then, I'll stand well out of the way. So we'll begin. If you could just close your eyes for me. Excellent. And keep your eyes closed and just turn your hands so your palm is facing up. Now if I mention these taps on your hand, just yes or no, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay. These taps on your hand, it's a strange request, but I'd like you to just slowly count them out loud for me, if you could do that now.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Excellent. So it's as though we've established a connection, which is what I was trying to do. Now I know your arm might be aching at this point, but whilst it's still there, I want you to imagine that you're holding a small item or object. It can be anything you like. Imagine you've got something in your hand. Excellent. And open your eyes for me. But using your imagination, I want you to try and see this item, whatever it is, try and see it still in your hand. Now it's only imaginary, but try and see it with your eyes open. Now we can't see this, but I'm willing to bet that you can. Just yes or no, you can see a small item or object in your hand?
Yep.
Excellent. Now whatever this thing is, I want you to imagine that I've taken it and I've placed it in my hand. You can put your hand down now. Now because of the connection we created a moment ago, even though this is only imaginary, I should be able to try and tell you what this is. I can't figure out if this is plastic or metal. It is something small. And if it's round, this is something round? Feels like it goes on, Okay, so you could have thought of anything in the world, but I've got a feeling I know what this is. Would I be right in saying I'm holding a bottle cap?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right, excellent, and there it is. And that is the replicant reveal version. All right,
Cool.
Let's talk about the method. All right, so here is the method for the replicant reveal. Again, using the phone is something that Peter Turner and I kind of worked on quite a bit for somebody to use on television. It was used quite well, and we've just taken the idea since and run with it. Of course, there are many people that have done this in the past. Colin Cloud, again, I believe, now I don't know, but from what I can remember, in Colin Cloud's Vegas show with Shin Lim, he has an onstage spectator read some instructions, and then just to clarify for the audience, he explains what those instructions are, but he misses out some details that's on there. I think that's what he's doing, I don't know, but I want to mention it anyway, just in case it happens to be the same. All right, so what you've just seen there is essentially a pre-show version. Now, before you fast forward or before you get angry with me, this is something you can also do live. The only thing you need to do is peek a drawing. Using whatever peek method you want with some billets and peek wallet or whatever, you need to peek the drawing. This is how I do it live, so that it's okay that everyone else knows a drawing is taking place. If you were to do this with a bit of pre-show, it takes 10 seconds. Before you start filming your video or whatever it is, hand your spectator a business card and a pen and say, I'd like you to draw something that you could hold in the palm of your hand. It could be anything you like. It could be a button, a chocolate, a stone, even a mouse or a spider, anything you want that you could hold in the palm of your hand. I want you to draw a picture of it or write it down or whatever you're going to do. And then you're going to peek that information and then say to them, okay, so in a moment we're going to go through a process that's going to hopefully connect our minds. And when I ask you to think of a small object that you could hold in your hand, whatever you've drawn, that's what I want you to think of. So you could have thought of anything in the world, you could have drawn anything, but this is what you chose, that's what I want you to stick with. So when I ask you to think of an item or an object that you could hold in the palm of your hand, whatever you've drawn, that's what I want you to think of. It's as simple as that, and then you begin the performance. Of course, in the real world, when you're not doing any sort of pre-show like that, you just have them do a drawing with the same instructions and then peek it. Something they can hold in the palm of their hand. So it's just a great reveal. This is what I was talking about that Peter Turner and I were playing with. There are some instructions, and the instructions say this. When I ask you to close your eyes, mentally count to 5, then slowly raise your right arm up like a zombie, keeping your eyes closed. Pay attention to how your hand feels. Then imagine I touch your hand 4 times. Try to feel it in your mind. So one more time, very quickly. When I ask you to close your eyes, mentally count to 5, then slowly raise your right arm up like a zombie. Keep your eyes closed. Pay attention to how your hand feels. Then imagine I touch your hand 4 times. Try to feel it in your mind. So, I've just realized when I was demonstrating this to the camera, I missed an important bit, but I'm glad I've remembered because I can talk about it more now. So they're given these instructions to read. And as they're reading that, you step forwards and address the audience or the rest of the group. I like to talk about the physical body, emotional body, energetic body. You just need to fill some time here to give them a chance to read the instructions. And again, to keep the attention here and not here. Then I turn back to them and say, you've read the instructions, you fully understand them. I make sure I get a yes. I take this away. And now you've got a completely hands-off PK touch because I say to them, okay, let's begin. It's important to say that. Let's begin. Keep your eyes open for me, but I say to them, let's begin. Close your eyes. I know they're going to mentally count to 5, so I just do the same. And then I start to raise my hand up like this as their arm goes up. And I say, excellent, keep your eyes closed, but just turn your hand so your palm is facing up. Now, one thing I forgot to mention in the demonstration was I was meant to turn to the camera and say, just so that everybody understands, those instructions told you to pay attention to how your hand feels. Is that correct? And they'd say yes, because it's in the it's not the whole instructions, but it's in there. So I say, just so that everybody understands, those instructions told you to pay attention to how your hand feels. Is that correct? They say yes. Then you can continue. You start to touch your hand and say, these touches on your hand, just yes or no. You know what I'm talking about when I say the touches on your hand. And it looks like it's kind of rocky, but you're getting there. You're building a connection. As soon as they say yes, you say, all right, excellent. Now, it's a strange request. But these touches on your hand, I'd like you to slowly count them out loud for me, if you could do that now. And you do the same thing again as in Replicant, but you've done no secret touches, they're only imaginary. Once those touches have been done, because you know what you've peaked in the drawing, you can say, great, now that we've established a connection, imagine the item that you've drawn is in the palm of your hand, and open your eyes for me and try and see it there. I like the idea of saying, none of us can see this, but you can. And they say, yes. It's like a weird thing. It's like a ghost. And then you can play about with taking the item and putting it in your hand. Their arm has been up for quite a while now, but if you wanted, you could just keep your hand here, or you could just start touching it in their hand. It's up to you. I like to have them put their arm down, and then I keep the object here. And then what's nice is, once you're ready to reveal it, it's good to pretend to pick the item up and say, is this a bottle cap? Or am I holding a bottle cap? As though it actually is a real physical item that's there. If they've drawn an apple, imagine picking it up and say, am I tasting apple? So you know what I mean? You can play with the reveal from there. Another nice line that you can throw in here is, you could turn to them and say, if you wanted to at some point, you could say, so a moment ago, in your mind, was I touching your hand?
Yes.
And they have to say yes, right? Because I've told them to imagine that I'm touching their hand. And you can say, it's interesting, and you felt that, but did I touch your hand at all?
Nope.
And they say no. So you see what I mean? So you can play with what their reality is, so now you can play with it and it creates a different effect for the audience. But essentially that is it. That is the replicant reveal. Kukulkan.
Yeah.
Kukulkan. Kukulkan. The god of wind. It's not actually, it's a god of many things, but known for manipulating and controlling wind. Mayan god of wind, yeah. And so there's a couple of methods here. Now, these aren't going to be the things you do all of the time, but they're definitely worth knowing, because when the time is right and you do this, it's the most magical thing you'll ever see. You want your spectator to heighten or increase their sensitivity to what they can feel. And I've found a very interesting way of doing this. So we say that we hear with our ears, we look or we see with our eyes, and we feel by touch. But if I said to you, I want you to listen to me with your eyes, you understand that is just looking at me. But when you try and listen with your eyes, it feels like you're doing something different, right? If I say, I want you to listen to me with your eyes, something in your mind kind of goes, okay. And like a weird bit of extra effort takes place. You're trying to listen with your eyes, even though you understand it as just looking. So you can word that however you want, but essentially it's a great way of demonstrating an increased awareness of a particular sense. So then, when you ask your spectator to hold out their hand like this, you can say, now, same again. I want you to pay attention to what you can feel with your hand. I want you to listen to what you can feel. Now, you won't actually hear anything with your ears, but by listen to what you feel, I mean pay close attention to everything you feel in this hand. So there's a couple of different forms of energy. I'm going to first show you what's called the rain. And the rain looks like this. I call it down, and I direct it. And I want you to just pay attention to what you feel when I do this. For some people, it feels cold. Some people say it feels almost wet. Some people say it tingles. For everybody, there's a different sensation, but everybody feels it. So again, I call the energy down and I direct it. You feel that? Mm-hmm. It's almost like it takes a moment to arrive. I bring it forward, I direct it, and then it gets there. Another form of energy is called the wave. Same sort of thing. This will be up and down your arm. Just give me a yes if you can feel that.
Yeah.
Excellent. So I don't want you to think that by seeing the actions I'm doing, it's kind of just mentally telling you what I'm doing. So now we'll try it with your eyes closed. But before you do, I'm going to do either the rain or the wave.
Okay.
Give yourself a moment to feel it and understand it, and then just tell me which of the two you think I'm doing.
Okay.
So if you could close your eyes for me now, and as I say, give yourself a moment to feel it, and then tell me which one you think it is. It'll either be the rain or the wave.
I think this is the wave.
The wave, excellent. You can open your eyes now, and that's exactly right.
Okay.
So what we've just done is increased your sensitivity to the energy of others or the energy of the room or the world around you. And now at this point on, it'd be a great opportunity to lead into replicant or something else using this person. And essentially what's happening there is we're using a very, very old technique to blast a gust of wind onto Ben's arm and hand. This was, I believe, Ormond McGill in Psychic Magic, I think it was called. It was in Animal Magnetism. The idea was he would cause them to feel a cold energy on their hand, and he'd point to the exact spot they'd feel it, and he'd do that like this. And just give me a yes if you feel this.
Yeah.
Perfect. And all he's doing there is using his hand up here, bringing it down with his fingers together, and then pointing. And then what happens is there's
It just creates an airflow, doesn't it?
Yeah, just
you're aiming it at the
an
hand.
airflow, but it's so subtle. This is why you need them to pay close attention. It's so subtle that they're not going to think you've just blown on their hand or you've just done a big thing. This is something I use all the time. Jerome Finley has a lot of works around in this as well. You can get a full act out of this move alone. And essentially, the rain and the wave, this is just variations of that. So what's happening with the rain is I'm sprinkling my fingers down, and as I say, I call the energy forwards and then I direct it. I'm just doing a very small whoosh towards their hand, and then a second or so later they feel it. It's good to acknowledge that delay. So it's like I'm calling the energy forwards and then I direct it. So it's almost like you're taking rain and putting it in their hand, and a second later is when they feel the wind. Mm-hmm. The wave, same sort of thing. Rather than just scanning your hand up and down the arm like so, you're tilting it like this as you go up, and then tilt it back as you come back. So what's happening is, and you will need to practice to figure out how slowly you can get this, but essentially, all they're going to feel is just wind blowing up and down their arm. Right? And then it's nice because you can do this with their eyes closed, as you've just seen, and they will feel it. The only important thing, and you can put your hand down now if you want, the only important thing to remember is to tell them, take a moment to feel it, and then understand it, and then tell me which one you think it is. Just because there's times when I've done this, I've gone to do the wave, and they've gone, rain. I'm like, oh, if you'd have given yourself an extra second, you'd have got this. So just say to them, take a moment to feel it, experience it, understand it, and then tell me if it's the rain or the wave. Now you can attach different meanings to those. Red cards could be the rain, black cards could be the wave. If you could do an out of this world with an ungimmicked deck, just with their eyes closed. So you could pick up a card and based on the energy, is it red or is it black? What you could do is you can control the airflow as well. So on the wave, they can either feel the wind up and down their arm, or if you make an effort not to cause a breeze, so keeping your hand flat and then just move it around, try and make it look the same, then you can cue them to do anything. If you feel the energy, it's red because there's a passion in the ink, in the colour. If you don't feel any energy, it's cold and it's black. So their eyes are closed, and Ungimmick deck, you can go through the cards, maybe just do 4 or 5 of these. If you feel an energy, it's probably the presence of the red colour. If it feels cold and there's nothing there, oh actually yeah, it's probably not a good idea to say cold. But I'm sure you can see where I'm going with this. It's like a switch that you can put on and off to cue them to say different things.
I wonder whether or not, just as a complete side thing, whether or not you could keep it completely level if you don't want it to register, and slightly tilt if you do.
Oh yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay,
yeah,
yeah, cool.
Yeah, but you still need to be careful because you don't want them to look too different from each other. Yeah. But yeah, absolutely, that's a great point. And it's something that you can control. So it's a good lead into something. But having all of these techniques, it gives you something to play with in the middle of other routines. People for years asked me, how do I test if somebody is suggestible? Well, rather than doing a suggestibility test, just suggest something in the middle of another routine. You know, if you're about to reveal something, have someone hold out their hand and imagine holding it and say, now watch, notice if it gets warmer while I do this. And move your hands closer to theirs. And if they say yes, milk it for all it's worth. If they say no, go, oh, that's interesting. So this item that you're thinking of is man-made, it's not natural. And then you can get your way out of it from there or whatever you want to do. But by throwing in small things like this into other parts of your act, there is so much you can do, and it looks like you're a master of energy. Imagine this. Imagine demonstrating all of this on one person, and then telling them that they've essentially increased their sensitivity to the energy of the world around them. Say, now let's take this a step further, then bring another person up, and then do replicant. You're great. And then there's one more final thing you could do, because if you've got somebody who is, everybody feels it, they just need to be consciously aware that they can feel it. Some people, it won't register. So you've got to kind of say without saying, it's going to feel like a little breeze. Very subtle. But you need them to pay attention to it. So I say, some people say it feels warm. Others say it feels cold. Some people say it tingles. Some people say it actually feels like rain. It's different for everybody, but everybody feels it. And then when they feel the cold, they'll go, ah, that's how I get this. It's cold. I didn't get the rain or the tingle. I got the cold. And then they just understand it from there. And one more interesting thing you could do with this, rather than a traditional PK touch style thing where you're secretly touching a person, your secret touches can be the wind, or can be the animal magnetism Ormond McGill trick. Because they're going to feel something and nobody knows you've caused a touch. So you can say to your spectator, now in a moment I'm going to step over there and I'm going to do something. And essentially I'm going to gesture towards your hand. And you'll feel something. For some people it feels warm, others say it feels cold, some say it tingles, and so on. Whatever you feel, however it feels to you, we will just call it a touch. So if I say, did you feel me touch your hand, however it felt to you, whether it's warm or cold or whatever, just let me know if you felt it or not with a yes or a no. So now, so when their hand is out and their eyes are closed, but keep them open, once their eyes are closed, wave to everybody to get their attention. So you know, everyone here, okay? And then bring your hand down, cause a cold blast of air here, as though you're just showing everybody else it's going to be here. Now you can move away, talk for a moment, look at your own hand and touch it. Or blow on your hand, it's up to you, whatever you want to do. Say yes or no, however it felt. Did you feel me touch your hand at all? Most of the time they'll say yes. Some people say no because they've forgotten that you've given it that definition, and that's okay. Because if they say no, you can say, interesting. Can you explain exactly how it felt to you then? And then they'll go, yeah, that was like a cold sort of, and then you get it from there. You can put your hand down now. And that is Kukulkan. So this technique is called palm chakra. Again, it uses the wind and the breeze, but in a slightly different way. So palm chakra looks like this. So if you can hold out your hand nice and flat like so. Now in a moment you'll start to feel this, blah, blah, blah. Give all the same spiel. For some it's cold, others it's warm. Everybody feels it, but it's different for everyone. And it's important to say this, it's very, very subtle. But when you become aware of the sensation, it'll start to get stronger and you'll become even more aware of it. So just give me a yes when you feel this.
Yes.
Okay. Well, we can make it a little bit stronger because now you're aware of it and how subtle it is. So we'll start from up here.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So now, in fact, we'll do it with your other hand. Put your other hand up like this, like a stop sign. Again, I'm not going to touch your hand, but just give me a yes. I'm going to take a step back and give me a yes when you feel this.
Yeah.
Okay. And now, just for clarity, on camera, we'll do this with your eyes closed. So if you can close your eyes for me and just give me a yes when you feel this.
Yes.
Okay, excellent. You can put your hand down now and open your eyes. Same sort of thing. So what's happening with palm chakra is their hand is out. And it was nice that you didn't get that immediately straight away, because think about this. If this is energy you're dealing with, it's so delicate and so ethereal, hence the name of the project, that it would kind of be like, oh, I don't know, I think I feel it, I don't know. And that's kind of what you want. You don't want to, yes, I got it. It's a lot more subtle than actual physical touches. So your fingers are closed together. You're about 1 inch or 2 away from their palm. And essentially, if you bring your hand up now at a reasonable speed, what's going to happen is it's going to cause air to rush into the sides very, very slowly, and it's going to cool their hand down. But it's so slow and it's so subtle that when you do this, it's only around now that they actually start to feel it. Yeah. So you've got enough time to come up here and then slowly come down with your fingers open.
I feel that now.
Yeah. And it times it for you. You can practice on yourself, but you need to practice on, so I feel that there. I feel it every single time. Practicing on yourself is a great way of getting the speed and the pacing right. Some people won't feel this at all, and if they don't feel it, then you're going to have to move into something else. I wouldn't recommend continuing with the routine if they absolutely don't feel anything at this point. But
as a spectator, I think this one feels a lot stronger.
It is. Yeah, and you got it a lot quicker as well. So this isn't a timing thing or anything like that. Now, in this room, Ben could probably hear me taking a step back. However, once their hand is up like this, in fact, let's switch sides for a second just so they can see this a little bit better. Once the hand is up, again, I'm about 2 inches away. My back foot is going to go right the way out here, so that in one step I can move as far away from them as possible. So again, I'm here. The same thing is happening. I'm moving my hand away and air comes in from the sides and cools their hand down a little bit. But as I sidestep or as I backstep, I bring the hand here, I bring this hand up, and I slowly push like this. This action does nothing, but it buys me all of this time to get them to say yes. And all they're feeling is the cold air caused by that. So one more time. It's like this. And then this hand, you feel it now. Okay, so that's super quick on you. Some people it takes a little bit further, and the further back you can get, the better it is.
I think as well, if you're holding your hand next to theirs for a little second as well, there is a bit of heat.
Oh yeah,
which
totally.
means that when they step back, it feels like the contrast of the cool and the warm is a lot bigger.
Yeah,
whereas
totally.
if you just go hold your hand out like that, the change in temperature isn't nearly
as noticeable.
Intense,
yeah, totally. And that reminds me, another thing, if you get like a chapstick or a lip balm with menthol in it, you know, the really tingly kind, and load that onto their hand, ashes on palm style, just a little bit, and then when you cause a breeze, they feel it a lot more. It really is cold then, and that's another great way of doing it. Once you've done that distance, one final thing, and I won't do it here because it involves falling over, but if they've got a chair behind them or somebody who's there to catch them, once you've done this distance one and you get a yes from it, now you can say, excellent, we'll do this one more time, but I'm going to go and stand right the way over there. And instead of feeling it on your hand, I want you to imagine that you can feel it through your whole body. And when you imagine that feeling, and you'll know when the time is right, just allow yourself to fall back into the arms of those behind you, or just allow yourself to sit back into the chair. So listen, I've said, rather than feeling it on your hand, I want you to imagine that you can feel it over your whole body. And when you imagine that feeling, and you'll know when the time is right, fall back. So now you're telling them to imagine it. You're telling them to just wait a moment and imagine they get this feeling, and then they fall back. So what this allows you to do, it allows you to go right to the other side of the room and say, okay, we'll do this now. If you can close your eyes for me and keep your eyes open. But you ask them to close their eyes. You yourself take a breath, do your actions, take a moment, and then very, very slowly, Tai Chi style, imagine sending some energy across the room to them. And the nice thing is, the slower you move, the more you are allowed a delay. So if you're over there and you do this, if there was a real object there, you'd assume it's going to move quickly because I've moved quickly. But if I move slowly, it's almost like the imaginary cloud takes... If I go like this, It's almost like, oh, in the minds of the people watching, it's going to have that same pace.
Speed, yeah.
Yeah. And if you're moving like this, they could sit down here, they could sit down when I'm here, they could sit down when I'm here, they could sit down when I'm here. Or if it takes an extra moment with this hand when I'm still there, I'll just kind of go like that and gesture. And I'm just waiting for them to sit down in their own time. And you've demonstrated it here, you've demonstrated it here, and then you've demonstrated it from across the room. It's a 3-phase, invisible touch routine without any physical contact ever. And that is palm chakra. Okay, so as you may or may not realize already, the most important thing here is to just be mindful of the environment you're performing in. Some of the wind techniques won't work their best outside. It's best to do them indoors. But the idea here is to just give you as many methods in this kind of style as I can, so that when you're in a performance, you can pick and choose the best methods to suit the environment you're in. Again, be mindful of the spectators you choose for this. It'll work on everyone as long as you choose the right people for it. So you need somebody who's paying attention, willing to get involved, willing to take this seriously, and willing to not test you to see if it works, but willing to have the experience. You want somebody who wants to experience this with you. And that, just keeping that in mind will help you pick the best people to perform this on. There is another technique that I shared a number of years ago, just called the third eye. And I can show you this very simply here. I think I first shared this in Revelations, the download that I put out on revealing information. The idea is very simple. You talk about the concept of the third eye, and in artwork and imagery, it's depicted as being here, like another eye in the middle of the forehead. This is supposed to be the center of extra awareness, the center of intuition and knowing. And the idea is, you say to your spectator, in a moment, I'm going to ask you to close your eyes. And then I'm going to bring my hand into your aura, into your energetic field, closer to where your third eye would be. I'm not going to touch you, but I'm going to bring my hand closer to your third eye here. When you can sense or feel that I'm close to your third eye, just raise your hand. Keep your eyes closed, but raise your hand. And then when you sense that I've moved away, just lower your hand. All right, so you ask them to close their eyes, you take a moment, and when you're ready, you just slowly bring your hand towards their third eye here, and when you get to a few inches away, their hand goes up. You can hold this for as long as you want, and then when you move away, the hand goes back down. You can repeat this if you want. It's a great way of demonstrating a person's intuition. So if you're about to do a routine that presentation-wise, it's going to use their intuition, this is a great way to open up their intuition, to get them to concentrate and focus on whatever it is you're going to do next. It's also just a great demonstration by itself as well. You could throw this in with everything else that we've talked about here. I'll leave it to you to find the best place to insert this into your performances, but here is the method. It's super simple. All you need to do is position your spectator so they are facing the brightest source of light in the room. Now, something like this, if the light is like this, it's going to be very obvious. But, you know, a big light or a lamp or even the sun, or, you know, some light over there, whatever the brightest source of light is, make sure they're facing it. And when their eyes are closed, all you have to do is use your hand to block the light from hitting their eyelids, right? And that usually happens when you get a few inches away from their face, which is like here. When you block the light from hitting their eyelids, it may seem like it'd be obvious. It may seem like they'd instantly just catch on, but they don't. They don't realize that you are blocking the light from hitting their eyes. It just feels, they just become aware of the presence of your hand. And that's what makes their hand go up. And you can hold this for as long as you want, and when you move away and the light reaches their eyes again, so it's not suddenly, it doesn't just suddenly reach their eyes like that. If you slowly move away, the light slowly comes back, and they can just feel that you've moved away, right? It's almost like, because they can't see anything, because their eyes are closed, their brain has no choice but to interpret the information it's receiving as something is close to you, something has moved away from you. And you can test it on yourself. I've got a light here and it's very bright, and it causes a big shadow on the face. You don't want to be causing obvious shadows, but there's another lamp over there. That would be perfect. I'd have my spectator face that, and I'd just use my hand to stop that light from hitting their eyelids. You can do that just a little bit higher up like this. And again, they just sense it, they feel it, they just know, they understand that you're there, and the hand goes up. So a really great technique, really easy, and you can just do that more or less anywhere. Another great technique is if you have, let's say you have 5 ESP cards, somebody has chosen one of them and you know what it is, either you forced it or they were stacked or marked, and you're going to cause somebody else to be able to feel which shape or card has been chosen. It's very easy. You can have them have their eyes open for this or closed. The choice is yours. But essentially, you need a table and the 5 cards. Ask your spectators to hold their hands like this, a few inches above the table, and explain that one by one, you'll put the cards under their hand, and when they feel or sense something different, that they should tell you. So, do you think it's this one? Do you think it's this one? Do you think it's this one? And all you need to do, you're putting the cards flat, so you're not holding the cards under their hand, you're putting them flat under the table, on the table, and slide it under their hand, and ask them if they can feel anything. Now, when you get to the card that you need them to pick, that you've peeked or forced or whatever, all you're going to do is silently, you're going to blow down onto the table, but just a few inches away, just next to the hand is here, and the table is here with the card, and you want to blow here, at a bit of an angle, just silently. You're not aiming for the hand, you're not aiming for the card, you're aiming for the table here. And what this will do is it will cause the air to travel under their hand and then up. So for them, it feels like the cold sort of atmospheric air is coming up from the card. It feels like it's coming from the card. Try this yourself and it works perfectly. So again, the card you want them to stop on, the hand is like this. You slide it under on the table under their hand, so the hand's a few inches away from it. Blow here at a bit of an angle, and the air bounces up and it feels like it's coming from the card. I know that seems ridiculous and it seems like the kind of thing you wouldn't get away with, but trust me, it works. And if you want to make sure people stay focused here, you can even say to everybody else now, when the correct card is placed under John's hand, you may notice his fingers start to twitch. It's automatic, happens every time, look out for it. And now everyone's looking at the hand, waiting for them to twitch, and you can be up here just going, just blowing like that. You can use some of the scripting that we've used in some of the other routines. You can say for some people it feels warm, others say it feels cold. Choice is yours what you say here, but essentially that is the method, and it's very cheeky, but very useful. You could demonstrate somebody's connection to nature by doing a secret touch in some way, and instead of tapping somebody else, you could touch a flower or a leaf or a tree, as though you're demonstrating their connection to the natural world. It's just an interesting variation of what would normally be done on another person. Touch something natural. Of course, all of this material works best when you are a kind of esoteric style performer. If you have a different style, you might be able to make some of this work. It just all depends on how you frame it. But if your style of mentalism is anything like mine, then all of this kind of material should fit right into what you're already doing. As I say, the only things you have to remember is just be mindful of who you're performing for, choose the right spectators, and be mindful of the environment you're in, and you will always be able to do this kind of stuff. And because these are mechanical methods, and it is something that they should feel every single time, as long as they pay attention to it, it can be very tempting to repeat this a few times. You know, if you've got something going good, it can be very tempting to keep doing that. However, I'd recommend not. Don't overdo it, because then they might just start to think, there's a kind of breeze his hands are causing. You don't want them to do that. Just do enough to get a yes from them, and then that's it. Move on to a different technique, or even now test the suggestibility. This is a great way of seeing if you do have a suggestible person. Use one of the wind techniques, or you know, any of the techniques that I've taught you here, and then just push it, just try it. Just move a little bit further away and say, now I'm going to move further away. It'll be a little bit more subtle this time because I'm further away from you, but just give me a yes when you feel this, and be very sort of confident that they will feel it, right? So if you're doing the palm chakra method, if that's going great and they're kind of excited about it and they're into it, say to them, just say, let's do this again. I'm going to step further back. It'll be a little bit more subtle this time because of the distance between us, but pay close attention and give me a yes when you feel it. And then don't do anything to cause a breeze. Just do that with their eyes open. And if you get a yes here, now you're golden. Now the suggestive touch has worked. And if it doesn't work, you can say, that's okay, maybe it's the distance, let me come back to you, and then just continue the routine from there. But just test it, put some distance, do it again with their eyes open, and if you get a yes there, they are feeling something, and this is where the expectation comes into it, they are feeling something that is not physically caused by you. So then you can do it with their eyes closed. Say to them, great, let's do this. Keep your distance, say, great, let's do this one more time, but now just close your eyes, and when you feel it, give me a yes. And now it is kind of timing, but they will feel something because it worked. it worked when their eyes were open, right? There was no breeze there and they felt something. So they're going to feel it again. You've just proven that you can do it. Now have them close their eyes. Take a moment, take a breath, slowly move your hand towards them and just wait for them to say yes. And there's no greater feeling in the world than doing this, because it just looks and feels absolutely like the real deal. And I've used these demonstrations in places where nobody's expecting me to perform, but they're expecting me to talk about energy and give demonstrations, talk about chakras, Reiki, energy healing and things like that. I've given talks on that kind of stuff, but then used this material as demonstrations of the things that I'm talking about. So I'm not claiming that they're the same thing. I'm talking about various forms of energy and how they can be used. But then I'm giving a visual demonstration. Instead of showing them a picture or a diagram, I'm just doing something live for them to represent the themes and concepts that I'm talking about. All right, so that is everything for ethereal. Just practice this, go out and perform. And the nice thing is, it's all propless. Once you've got this down and you start performing it, it's kind of addictive, and it's a really nice style of propless mentalism. They don't have to go through some sort of lengthy process. It's not intellectually based, it's more physically based. It's something they can feel. They just have to be in the right sort of mindset for it. But that is very, very easily done. So I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you for watching. My name is Lewis Laval, and this was Ethereal.